Hiding their pride or fighting for what's right. Before the Israeli Premier League game between Maccabi Tel Aviv and Bnei Sakhnin, both teams were expected to wear a shirt in support of LGBTQ children in Israel. However, only 2 Bnei Sakhnin players did so. Historically, an Arab-Israeli club, most players refused to don the shirts because of religious, personal or political beliefs, similar to several other players in the league. This comes months after the Qatar World Cup, where several nations were banned from wearing rainbow armbands in support of LGBTQ rights, as it was deemed a political gesture against the home nation, which is under strict Sharia law. But if national teams had to respect their hosts' beliefs, why couldn't the Bnei Sakhnin players respect the Israeli Premier League's beliefs? Is it insensitive of the clubs to force their players to compromise their beliefs, or is it insensitive of the players against these marginalised groups who would appreciate their support? Can or should sports be separated from politics? Should sports stars broadcast their personal beliefs?
So let's get to it. Should sports star broadcast their political beliefs? As always, we begin with our quick fire round, 30 seconds each to lay out your initial stance on the matter, and we'll pick up the conversation from there. So Peter Tatchell, please take the lead. Your 30 seconds are on.
Sports stars, like everyone else, have human rights. They have freedom of expression. They have a right to express their point of view. They should do so when they feel fit and appropriate. It's certainly not right that sports bodies should actually prevent players, football players or any other sporting athletes from expressing their point of view. I think it's great that sports stars who have great followings can stand up and speak out for human rights. They are role models, and by speaking up for human rights, they give the lead.
Yes, indeed. Nisim Haliva, your thoughts?
Yes, this campaign is important, of course, and I expect it to be in billboards, social media, everywhere. But in the end, there are people out there, footballers with their own opinions, own religious opinions, cultural opinions, and I don't think that they need to be enforced to wear symbols that they don't believe in them. So in the end, the cause is right and important, but we need to think about freedom of the individual before what we expect of them to be united in thought.
And last but not least, Uri Levy, your take?
Yeah, I can only add more information maybe to the pretty similar opinions that we had from the two speakers. You know, football is about diversity, and exactly like Nisim said, each one has his own right to have his own opinion about any subject, especially something that is, you know, touching the fields of religion, beliefs, identity, gender, and even maybe sexual identity. Depends how you look on things. So that's it. Yeah.
Okay, gentlemen, and let's feel free to interact from this point onwards. I would like us to try and think about the situation in which the club wanted to do something for International Holocaust Remembrance Day, for example, and a player refused. Would we deem it anti-Semitic?
I think people will see it that way, and I think it will be logical to look at it this way. But in the end, I think that the people don't need to be in the center. The center would be the voice, the campaign, the things that you see in the field, around the field, in social media, in television. I don't think when you take someone, a footballer, for example, that he's doing his job, he plays football, and we don't care. Me as a journalist and a fan, I don't really care about what his religious opinions or his political opinions. I watch him because he's playing soccer, and I don't want him to feel obliged to believe in what I believe. So I think it should be outside of the field. The players themselves don't need to be forced to be a part of a campaign that maybe they don't believe in it.
But Mr. Tatchell, as you've accurately said, these are role models, no doubt about that. Is it moral not to take a moral stand?
Well, of course, freedom of expression cuts both ways. It includes the right to express an opinion and also the right to not express an opinion. So I agree that sports stars should not be forced to, for example, express support for LGBT plus rights. although I would love them to do so.
Yeah.
I think it would enhance their credibility and their public following if they took a stand in support of equality for everyone, including those people who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender. Going back to your point, I think if a player refused to honor Holocaust Memorial Day, that would certainly, in my view, be seen as anti-Semitic. You know, that was a horrendous crime against humanity, probably the greatest in all history. And I think for anybody to refuse to acknowledge that would be a terrible, terrible thing.
So befitting this rationale, Uri, why is not supporting issues like that homophobic? Why is LGBTQ rights considered political and not humanitarian?
Well, I think that this comparison between sharing respect for Holocaust victims and the story of the Holocaust to LGBTQ rights is quite different. And as we are living in Israel, which is a very diverse place in manners of religion, beliefs, and background that people are coming from, this comparison is even it's hard to digest because as we said, there are players who agreed to wear the shirt in the identification with LGBTQ youth, which is a good cause for the league management to promote, as it stands with its values and maybe the values that we want to represent as society. But individually, people here are coming from varied backgrounds, and you can definitely understand it. The issue of the Holocaust is a completely different thing. It's practically one of the main reasons we are sitting here and speaking about this, having this discussion today.
Yes, provocative comparison on my end. I'll give you that. But so let's.
Can I chime in there? Can I chime in?
Please, sir.
I don't think it is a provocative comparison because, of course, the Nazis targeted both Jewish people and gay people.
That's correct.
Gay people were taken to the concentration camps as well, and unlike many other victims, for decades they were denied compensation. The guards who tortured them and killed them, they were given their pensions. Their times in the camps counted towards their pension. The gay victims who survived the concentration camps were denied their pensions for over 40 years.
Correct.
And only just very recently, in the last 2 decades, some have got compensation. So I think we must not divide the Nazi period. We must stand with all the victims and not pick sides or choose.
Yes, thank you very much for this note.
But can I answer this?
Of course,
in the end, we are living in, and I'm speaking, as someone who lives here in Israel. I'm taking a step back from the universal view that we are trying to approach and attach to this situation. Most people here are Jews and Muslims, and there is a situation with LGBTQ with Judaism and Islam. So you can understand or assume that such situation might happen with football players that, by the way, many of them are coming from, traditional or maybe religious houses and families and backgrounds. So it's not out of the blue and it's not even outrageous. It actually makes sense that out of 22 players standing in line for the beginning of the match, maybe 7 to 15 at large wouldn't agree to wear the shirt because it is symbolized and it symbols something that doesn't collide with their upbringing, religion, beliefs and stuff like that. It doesn't mean they are against it necessarily, but it seems it's hard for them to stand with it openly and say we are identifying with it. Is it harming their role model idea? Yeah, maybe. An image? Yeah, maybe. But it's their own right. We live in the age of social media. Yeah. The people are more self-considered and highlighting their own identities all the time on different platforms. So this is another platform, and anyone can choose whether he like to promote this agenda or not.
But expanding on that point exactly, England players rather took the knee before the World Cup games for Black Lives Matters, but we're not allowed to wear this rainbow armbands. Question being, is there a double standard here to an extent? Are there social causes that are quote-unquote easier to swallow, Nisim?
I must add something.
Please.
everything here creates a backlash, because the campaign is about the LGBT rights and the LGBT community. And at the end, what happens is that we're seeing players that we don't really care about their opinions become the villains. And all of the social media is talking about the players are the villains. They call them homophobic. They call them people that from the Neanderthals in a way. And instead of people talking about the campaign itself, about what these kids are going through, we are talking about 12, whatever players that we don't really care about their opinions. So I think the campaign itself is very, very important. But once you put something on someone that doesn't really approve this thing, approve this subject, it doesn't feel part of it, we are creating exactly what we don't want to create. We create hate, we create social media bullying, and this is the opposite of the campaign. So I think it's the wrong approach. We should promote it, but not on the players. The players need to be separated from this because they are human beings. They have their own opinions, and we don't need to force them to think like us, even if we think that this is the right way to act or to behave.
Mr. Tatchell.
Well, it's been raised that Jewish and Arab people are part of Israeli society, and that's true. But also LGBT plus people are part of Israeli society, and they exist in both the Jewish and Arab communities. And I think, the more we try and recognize our common humanity, the better we'll all be. Sitting in our own corners and fighting our own corner and ignoring the other, that's the way for social disharmony. And I think that Israel has been through horrendous experiences, and I think many Israelis realize that having suffered as Jews, for example, they have a duty and an obligation to stand for all other people who suffer. And that's what we need. We need a reaching out, a compassion to those who are marginalized. And that's why this campaign is so important, to make young LGBT plus kids in Israel, whether they're Arab or Jewish or anything else, that they feel included and welcome.
Yes, Uri Levy, in the short time we have left. Yes.
Yeah, no argument about that. My personal view on the cause, which is important, but on the same time, I say that I know where I'm living, and I understand that might be accepted in a different manner. And I think that the bonus is we are having this discussion, and the issue is brought and being discussed is already a big achievement for the cause and for the movement.
And on that note of seeing the silver lining, we're taking a very short break, but when we get back, we'll continue our conversation, not just about the players, it's also about the fans. So, gentlemen, you're staying with us, a few minutes break, and we're back with part 2 of the summit. Welcome back to the summit. Still with us, Mr. Peter Tatchell, Uri Levy, and Nisim Haliva. Thank you, gentlemen, very much for staying with us. We're also staying on topic, but before we get back to our conversation, I want us to take a listen to Josh Cavallo, who became the first openly gay top division footballer back in 2021. It was October, somewhat paving the way to the Australian Professional League's first ever A-League's Pride Round. It will take place later on this month. So let's see what we have, what he had to say, rather, and pick it up from there.
The support I have received is beyond, but the work still needs to be done is staggering. For many, standing up and living honestly puts them in harm's way. It's dangerous, even deadly. We're far from true equality when 69 countries still criminalise LGBTQ people brushes these issues off, not realising their son, daughter or teammate might be LGBTQ.
So let's get to it, dear panelists. What can sports do to become more inclusive? Another quick fire round, and we pick it up from there. Nisim, please take the lead.
Well, as we say, these kind of campaigns are very, very important. They should promote it in the stadiums, around the stadiums, billboards, in the social media. Teams, the clubs themselves need to create awareness, to bring out stories like the one of Josh to the communities, to the crowd, and the crowd himself will support it in the end. The players don't need to do them themselves. It will be organic. It will be from the community and not forced on the community.
Uri Levy?
Yeah, I think that sports world and specifically football world has done a tremendous progress. I think in the last generation, if we are speaking from the end of the 90s till today, this issue is brought more to light and more to light. And I think that basically this issue will even grow because, as we spoke and mentioned earlier, in the social media era, each player and each executive and each fan has a platform to voice his opinion and identity, so it will even grow in the near future.
Mr. Peter Tatchell, your take?
Well, here in the UK, already we have had campaigns by the Football Association, by individual clubs, and by LGBT plus community organisations to encourage acceptance within football, because many LGBT plus kids are not feeling included. They feel alienated by the macho culture. And that has produced a fantastic turnaround in attitudes. Here in Britain, more than 3/4 of fans say they wouldn't care if one of their team's players came out as gay. All they care about is, do they score on the pitch?
And in this respect, and let's feel free to interact, gentlemen, let's cut to the chase. Why would any player want to come out in this environment? What if there was a gay player in the Bnei Sakhnin team? Why would he ever want to come out to his teammates in this surrounding?
Eli, I must ask you a question. Does any gay person should come out publicly? If he would like just to keep it for his own self. Many players, I believe, are living in the closet, and is not a good situation and not a healthy situation at all. But I'm saying, we discussed here in this show before the Qatar World Cup about gay rights and LGBTQ presence in Qatar during the World Cup. I must tell you, I've been there for the whole month, and I met not one and not two LGBTQ and gay people who enjoyed the World Cup. Some of them are Qataris living there, and they are not living their identity as gays the same way we live it in the Western world, but they are gays. And their family know they are gays, but they are just not, showing it outside. In a march or with a T-shirt or whatever. Just being this person, having this preference and gender identity. So I'm saying, this question, and especially in such a diverse society, such as Israel.
But Uri, it's not just about the players. It's also about fans. Statistics show, not just here in Israel, but around the world, time and time again, that LGBTQ fans largely do not feel comfortable attending sporting events. Is soccer inclusive enough? Not just for
no argument that a change is needed and a progress is being made. It's very slow progress, but it already has been done, and I believe it will continue to grow, as we said, as long as bodies like the league management, the football association, and the media will keep supporting it. It will keep being in the discussion.
Peter?
Yeah, but here in the UK,
sorry, Nisim, please chime in.
Here in the UK, the Football Association has made it a disciplinary offence to engage in homophobic abuse and chants. And recently, those chants have happened, and the fans who did them have been arrested and prosecuted. That is very important and necessary. We don't want them to be prosecuted, but we have to send a signal that that kind of behaviour is unacceptable. In France recently, there's been some horrific examples of homophobic chants at matches where the matches have actually had to be stopped by the referee. And again, there needs to be a stand taken by the football authorities to make all football matches a place of zero tolerance not just, of course, for homophobia, but for sexism and racism as well.
Absolutely.
That's the way we make football welcoming for everyone.
Nisim, please.
I agree completely with Peter. First of all, this is a must approach from the government and from the courts and police. I must add that there is progress, even in social media and even in video games. You know, there is a game called Football Manager that simulates the life of a manager in football. And there they've created the option that one of your players is coming out and telling the fans of the game that he's gay. So there is progress. There is more openness to the subject, and I think that the young crowd, the young children, are very openly minded, and the social media, they do see that. Let's say someone like Cristiano Ronaldo is liking a post about LGBT. It changes their mind. It gives them confidence. It gives confidence to the LGBT children, and it gives confidence to those who think it's not okay. Okay, maybe it is okay. Maybe I'm looking at it the wrong way.
Yeah.
I do think these campaigns are very, very important in football, in sports, because sports is a very, very important part of our community. I just think it should be made to be more organic, so the people will approach that by themselves, and not to put the right now there is a game in Israel right now, and there are several players, Ali Muhammad from Maccabi Haifa, Muhammad Abu Fani from Maccabi Haifa, they didn't wear the LGBT shirts. And I feel sorry for them, you know, because they live in a community that does not accept this, and they need to stand there, and they don't know what to do. You know, they feel like annihilated. So I think we should be very, very sensitive also for those who do not support it, and to show them another way, another approach. This is okay, and you don't need to put it in.
And in this respect, in the short time we have left, Peter, I'm taking a step back here and asking, maybe sports is becoming too quote unquote woke. Maybe we can just enjoy the pitch.
I think the opposite. I think it's great that players take a stand against racism, homophobia, and other forms of prejudice. But going back to the point about coming out, I mean, I know from footballers I have personal acquaintance with that they find it a great burden having to hide their sexuality for fear of being outed by tabloid newspapers or by hounded by fans and other players from other teams. I know that coming out does help lift a burden, but I would say it should never be the responsibility of just one player. That's why I've argued the best approach is to try and get maybe 4, 5 or 6 players to come out jointly. Then no one player is the focus of all the attention. They share the burden equally, and they can support each other. Yeah, well, with great power comes great responsibility, and I will adopt Uri Levy's optimistic silver lining. The mere discussion is signaling we're heading in a right way.